Welcome to Fighting Stats, the ultimate channel for UFC fans who love statistics and betting breakdowns. I'm your host, Art C, and today I'll be getting you ready for the upcoming UFC fight. Here at FightingStats.com, we have exclusive UFC stats not available anywhere else. We can tell you how often a fighter throws that left hook or that right jab in southpaw, how often they move backwards, or how often they throw kicks. We have all of that information, but that is not all. In this series, I'll be watching tape and I'll give you my real-time analysis on how the fight's going to go. I'm going to watch for fighter strengths, weaknesses, tendencies, and overall strategies to give you my prediction on how I think the fight is going to go and ultimately who's going to win. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Welcome to Fighting Stats. Welcome back to Fighting Stats. I'm your host, Art C, and today we are breaking down the UFC 298 fight here between Anthony Fluffy Hernandez and Roman Kopylov. So we've spent time taping all of the Roman Kopylov side. We've spent time taping the Anthony Hernandez side. Now it is time to break it all down. What we're going to do first is go into the fighting stats, give you all the stats that you need to know to understand the fight. I'm going to give you my breakdown of how I think the fight's going to go based on the fight tape that we've watched. And then I'll go into the numbers, figure out where all the numbers line, figure out where the best bets are, and get you to the window with winning bets here. So let's get this thing started. We have Anthony Hernandez here on the blue side, Roman Kopylov here on the red side. Anthony Hernandez is 5-2 in the UFC. 20% of his wins by KO, 60% of his wins by submission, and 20% by decision. Of his two losses, half of them coming by KO and half by submission. Roman Kopylov, on the other hand, 4-2 in the UFC, all four of his wins coming from KO, and his two losses, 50% by submission and 50% by decision. In terms of the tail of the tape, looks like both guys are going to be the same height and same reach at 6 foot, 75-inch reach. The big difference there, though, Anthony Hernandez in orthodox, Roman Kopylov in southpaw, and I'll tell you why I think that's a big difference there as well. But let's get into the offensive striking here for Anthony Hernandez. One thing that really stands out the page right away is Anthony Hernandez distance striking, only 48%. We normally see that in the high 70s, 80s, 90s sort of thing. So below 50% distance striking for Hernandez. 15% of those strikes landed are in the clinch, and 36% of the strikes are on the ground. So big ground strike guy. In terms of target breakdown, 90% of his target is towards the head, 8% towards the body, and only 2% towards the legs. So not a big leg kicker. Striking accuracy. 58% of his head strike accuracy lands, 94% to the body, and 89% towards the legs. Average strikes thrown by round, worth noting here. So he starts out at 32 strikes thrown in round 1, 24 in round 2, and drops off to 16 in round 3. Strikes landed, same sort of deal, stays fairly straightforward at 16 in round 1, 17 in round 2, and 13 in round 3. Has not been knocked down, or doesn't have any knockdowns there as well. Head strikes, looks like he just continues to go to the head, not really working the ground there. So in terms of knockdowns, does not have a UFC knockdown in his career. Overall, 57% striking accuracy there. We talked about the leg kicks, only landing 8 leg kicks in his UFC career. And then we talked about the ground strikes there. Almost 94 strikes landed on the ground there. Big numbers here against Shabazian, 19 in round 2, 19 in round 3. 3 in round 3 against Barrio, 10 in round 2 against Barrio as well there, and Josh Fremd as well. So he does have some ground and pound wins there as well. Anthony Hernandez, defensive striking here. So 69% of his strikes against are going to be at a distance. 25% of them are in the clinch, and 5% of them on the ground there. Most of those clinch numbers, I'll be honest, would probably be from defending the takedown in the clinch and then getting some strikes off. So target breakdown against, 86% of them are going to be towards the head of Anthony Hernandez, 13% towards the body, and again 2% to the legs. So he hasn't eaten a ton of leg kicks either. Defensive striking, 48% head defense striking, so 1 in every 2 ends up landing. Body, 92%, so not a big body defensive there. 92% strikes towards the body land, 100% of leg strikes land there as well. The average strikes absorbed by round tend to go down there as well, so we saw the output go down in terms of strikes landed against. 19 strikes landed against, and Hernandez 11 in round 2, and only 3 in round 3. That's basically probably from the pace that Hernandez can put on. So Hernandez has been knocked down once there. That was against Kevin Holland in May of 2020. Again, we talked about the leg kicks. He's only eaten 6 leg kicks in his UFC career. He ate 1 against Edmund Shabazian, and then the last time was against Kevin Holland there as well. So head target there as well. Okay, so let's go down to the Roman Kopylov offensive striking. A little bit different. He's going to be more of a striker. 93% of his strikes coming from a distance. 5% in the clinch there, and again, very low percentage, less than 2% on the ground there for Roman Kopylov. In terms of target breakdown, 77% of his shots go towards the head, 14% towards the body, and 9% towards the leg. So he does mix in those leg kicks. He does like that outside low kick from southpaw. Striking accuracy, 43% head strike accuracy, not bad. 84% strike accuracy towards the body is pretty good. And then 98% leg strike accuracy, does not miss on those leg kicks. Average strikes thrown by round, that has a decent pace that continues on. 41 strikes thrown in round 1, 34 strikes thrown in round 2, and 39 strikes thrown in round 3, landing about 23, 18, and 18 there. Does have a couple of knockdowns, 3 in round 2 and 1 in round 3, 0 in round 1. So definitely comes on later in rounds with the forward pressure and stuff. We talked about the knockdowns, 4 knockdowns overall over his short UFC career. Overall striking accuracy 55% there. Look at the leg difference there. Leg strikes thrown, 50 leg strikes landed, 51 strikes thrown. So big difference there in leg kicking that we'll talk about there for Roman Kopylov. Defensive striking here. 84% of the strikes landed against are at a distance, 5% in the clinch, and 11% on the ground. So that's worth noting that he does eat 11% of the strikes on the ground, 80% towards the head, 8% towards the body, and 12% towards the legs. So he does eat some leg kicks as well. Defensive striking, 32% head defense accuracy, not bad, not good, well, pretty good. 61% towards the body and 77% towards the leg. Strikes absorbed by rounds does drop off a little bit in terms of 20 in round 1, 18 in round 2, and 12 in round 3. Kopylov has not been knocked down in his UFC career. Has eaten a decent number of leg kicks as well, and then the ground strikes there. His opponent pretty much zeros up until the Albert Duraev fight there. Albert Duraev landing 30 strikes in round number 2 against him. Otherwise, everybody else is 0 there. So that's worth noting there. So now we're going to go into the detailed grappling. So the grappling here is really going to be one-sided, I think. It's going to be all of the Anthony Hernandez side that's going to be grappling. So we're going to take a look at the offensive grappling here. Crazy output here at 3.6 takedowns attempted in round number 1. Averaging 1.7 successful takedowns in round 1. Drops off to 2.8 attempted in round 2. Still 1.7 successful in round 2 there. And then successful takedowns in round 3. 2 of them successful. So it actually goes up as the rounds go on. I think it's just the pace that he can put on. He does have multiple sub-attempts per round. 0.6 in round 1, 1 in round 2, and 0.7 in round 3. That's going to be those guillotines that he likes there. And then his control by round as well there. So let's go into the takedown numbers here. So overall in his UFC career, attempted 49 takedowns. 28 of them have been successful, so a little bit over 50% there. Does have almost 2,000 seconds of control time, so really racking up those control time numbers. Looks like to be over 100 seconds per round easily. Over the last 6, 7, 8 rounds there. So we saw a real shift from his earlier time, obviously in the Marcus Perez fight when his UFC made his UFC debut. Didn't really attempt any takedowns. Junior Park went 6 for 9. We had some decent control time there. Against Rodolfo Vieira, obviously you're not going to go for takedowns. But then Josh Fremd, Barrio, and Shabazian, he does relentless with the takedowns, getting multiple there and multiple times. So, and we talked about the ground strikes, 94% ground strikes landed there. Defensive grappling, I'm not going to go into for Anthony Hernandez. I just don't see Kopylov going for the grappling there, so nothing to really defend there for grappling. And then Roman Kopylov, offensive grappling, again, we're not going to go into it. Has attempted 4 takedowns in his UFC career, 2 of them a bit successful. I really don't see him going for grappling in this fight. So we're going to go into the red defensive grappling. So that's Kopylov defensive grappling. This is worth noting. He's seen 25 takedown attempts. 2 of them have been successful. That was against Carl Robertson in his UFC debut, and then Albert Duraev after the 2-year layoff in round 2 as well, that he gave up those takedowns. When he did give up the takedown to Duraev, he gave up 264 seconds of control time in that takedown, and then they went to Carl Robertson in round 3. He gave up 60 seconds of control time in that. So those only been taken down twice. Decent control time given up though in those takedowns. So, but when he does keep the fight standing, he seems to win those. Going over the opponents, though, I guess it's worth noting. Josh Frem, not really a wrestler. Claudio Ribeiro, more of a striker. Punahele Soriano, more of a striker. Alexio De Chirico, obviously a striker. And the Duraev, kind of a grappler, not really. Carl Robinson. So hasn't really faced a ton of grapplers that really want to get him down to the ground. These guys are more strikers, and I think more of a Kopylov probably winning the stand-up and trying to change it up with the takedown. So it's worth noting good numbers, but just the strength of schedule in terms of who he's faced there. So let's get into the fighting stats here. In Shabazian, the Anthony Hernandez fight, we saw 64% of that fight was on the ground. Only 19% of that was spent standing, and 14% of that was attacking takedowns. That's basically how an Anthony Hernandez fight is going to go. He's not going to stand for very long. He's going to attack a takedown, and then when he does get it, he's going to ride the positions on the ground there. If we talk about the breakdown of the top control here, against Usman Shavazian, 76% of the ground time was in back mount. And then everything else, 10% in half guard, 4% in full guard. So, 76% of the time of the fight time against them would be in the back mount. That's worth noting there. And then we go to the Kopylov side. Again, hasn't been on the ground much, so not a lot of data here. 94% of his fight was spent standing, 3% defending a takedown. That's probably pretty accurate in terms of a Kopylov fight. Let's go into the striking tendencies matchup here. So Anthony Hernandez on the blue side, 84% of his shots are going to be single strikes. Doesn't have a ton of combos. Doesn't throw a ton of leg kicks either. Going to be 52% of his strikes are just going to be the single jab. 15% is going to be the single 2. 7% going to be the 1-2, and 7% is going to be the 1-3. So pretty basic striking there from Anthony Hernandez. Again, his path is more from the grappling. Roman Kopylov mostly going to be striking from southpaw. Going to throw that straight left that he likes 22% of the time. He does like that lead leg kick again. We talked about the outside low kick, 20% of the time there as well. 1-2, he has a nice 1-2, very long at 15%, and the rear high kick as well at 13%, and we'll talk about. So now based on the fight tape here, I just want to go through some of this, the what we saw in the fight tape. We're going to break it down here. So starting with the Anthony Hernandez side, again, he's more of a grappler. We saw him really shoot for the takedowns a lot, really want to get the fight down to the ground. In terms of striking, not really anything crazy to write home about. Really good chin. He does take some big shots. I did see a weakness for Anthony Hernandez, and that's going to be his body work. So anytime he takes a big body shot, he looks to sort of crumble. So if we go back to the Marcus Perez fight, that's how Marcus Perez gets the knockdown. He lands a kick, a glancing kick towards the solar plexus, drops Hernandez there, drops down to the ground, and then Marcus Perez actually able to get the submission off of the kick to the body. Same thing with the Kevin Holland one. He came in close into the clinch there. Kevin Holland throws the right elbow, lands, and then throws a knee to the body, drops Hernandez from the kick to the body. And why that's so important is that Roman Kopylov loves going to the body. And we talked about the positions here. Roman Kopylov is going to be in southpaw. Anthony Hernandez is going to be in orthodox. So what that does is really opens up the rear kick of both guys. Again, Hernandez is not going to throw a bunch of body kicks, so it's going to be really only the Kopylov side. Kopylov is going to stand in southpaw. The left leg is in the back. He's going to throw that left leg towards the body a lot, really work the body. We did see in that he does set up the high kick as well. I think it was against Ribeiro. where he throws the left kick to the body, left kick to the body. It drops the right arm down a little bit, trying to prevent that left kick from coming, and then he goes high with the head kick knockout. So that's definitely a weakness that I've seen from Anthony Hernandez. He's gonna have to protect the body. Roman Kopylov loves to go to the body, especially early, and then it's just a wearing out process from him. So on the feet, I give the huge edge to Kopylov. Kopylov's gonna want to keep the fight standing. Again, it's evident within his stats there: 25 takedowns attempted against, only 2 of them have been successful. I think we even saw in the Jericho fight. There's a point where Jericho falls down to the ground, and then Kopylov wants nothing to do with the ground. Get back up. Let's go back to standing. So I really don't see Kopylov shooting for a takedown. I know he did shoot for one, and it was more of a change of pace sort of thing. You saw he got the fighter down, and the fighter pops right back up. He doesn't really have a super good ground game or top control. He wants to keep the fight standing. So again, fight standing. He's going to also look for the outside low kick, southpaw versus orthodox. So you'll see him circling towards the left so that he can get the angle on the outside low kick. And then again, he has from southpaw a very, very straight 2 that he likes, the very straight left hand. He can land that pretty well, and a nice 1-2 as well. So those are going to be the weapons on the feet. I think Kopylov can land. Anthony Hernandez has a chin, but so does Kopylov. Kopylov actually has a chin as well. So on the feet, I give the big edge to Kopylov, and I do think that the threat of the takedown does take away some of those strikes. We talked about the body kick from southpaw. You are playing with fire in terms of somebody that wants to get you down to the mat. If you are going to throw that body kick, if it does get blocked or caught, you sort of give him the leg there, and then sorts Anthony Hernandez maybe catching a kick or takes the body kick, hooks the leg, and then now he pushes Kopylov up against the fence, works the takedown up against the cage there. So let's talk about the grappling. So again, Hernandez sort of flipped the switch there. He really wants to get the fight down to the ground. So if Kopylov does kick him, he might catch the kick to go down to the ground. Otherwise, he will shoot relentless takedowns, naked takedowns sort of thing. Kopylov does have good distance management. He keeps the same space between his opponents. So as his opponent comes forward, he moves backwards. He doesn't really load up a ton of strikes. He doesn't really press forward. He does come forward with his strikes, but he doesn't throw. So that's a big difference there. He comes forward, and then he's sort of baiting the attack out. So what you might see in this fight, and I'll be honest, it might probably work, is Kopylov coming forward and just keeping his hands up, knowing that Hernandez will want to shoot. Hernandez does shoot some naked takedowns, doesn't really set it up. He can throw some overhand rights into a clinch, into a takedown, but I think this cage is going to be the bigger cage. It's going to actually favor Kopylov. And again, if Kopylov can sort of force the takedowns out of Hernandez, then it's more predictable in terms of when those takedowns are going to come. So if I press you back, you're going backwards, you have your back up against the cage, there's really only 3 directions. You can either circle right, you can circle left, or you can shoot in for a takedown. So once you get Hernandez back up against the cage, I expect him to shoot for a takedown. I expect Hernandez or Kopylov to sort of expect it. Sprawl, I think he does have some decent takedown defense. I think he trains over in Russia with the Dagestanis there, so he's always working on that takedown defense here. So that's going to be the biggest story of this fight, and it's really going to come down to Kopylov's defense and his takedown defense. If Anthony Hernandez can get those takedowns off, I think Kopylov can pop back up, but then Hernandez is right back on the takedown. So we're going to see a lot of up, down, up, down, up, down sort of thing. I can see Hernandez getting multiple takedowns in this fight. And then it really depends on the control. Does Anthony Hernandez get the control? Does Kopylov get up and do enough damage on the feet that he wins the round? For me, it's Anthony Hernandez just loves this guillotine setup, and he goes to it all the time. And so if Kopylov is smart, I think on his get-ups, he doesn't expose his back at all. If he doesn't, he doesn't engage in the grappling. All he wants to do is sort of, keep the distance, push off, circle off, and keep the fight standing. I think it takes away some of the attacks that Hernandez has. Again, Hernandez keeps dropping down for this guillotine. He every time he gets the back, he sets up this guillotine or anaconda choke sort of thing. And I think Kopylov should be able to defend it. I talked about it in the breakdown there. There's so much tape on Hernandez's setups in that guillotine. I want to say Kopylov's smart enough to defend it, but it's a weapon, and he loves to go to. He has a lot of setups from it, and he knows a lot of get-ups from it. So I think Hernandez sub is live. I think Kopylov should be able to defend it, though. We just haven't seen a ton of Kopylov off of his back or submission defense. He hasn't really fought a submission grappler there, so I can see the case for the Anthony Hernandez side. So, again, it comes down to the takedown defense of Roman Kopylov. If he can keep the fight standing, if he does, I think he can put out Anthony Hernandez. Anthony Hernandez has a good chin, but I think it's going to be the body work that really makes the difference. So I can see a finish coming late in that end. So let's get into the numbers. That's how I think the fighter is going to go. Let's break down in terms of how the fight can be outputted here. So what I like to do is I like to go through the various outcomes, assign a certain percentage to it, and then that will help me determine what the side is, what the value bet is, what the best bets are there. So let's get this started here. Hold on. All right. Anthony Hernandez is going to be on the blue side here. Roman Kopylov is going to be on the red side. So we're going to start out with Anthony Fluffy Hernandez to win by TKO. I'm going to say it's possible, and Roman Kopylov does have a chin. He's never been knocked down in his UFC career. He's fought some decent strikers, and his distance management is pretty good. So I think the Hernandez KO is live, but it's probably going to come from ground and pound. We did see the 35% of Hernandez's strikes coming from the ground. So I think that's live. I just don't rate it that high. It's probably going to be about 10%. We're going to leave it about 10% here. Win by submission. So I think this is a path here for Anthony Hernandez. We saw 60% of his wins in his UFC career from submission, and it's because he just goes from submission to submission. He just keeps chaining submissions together. We've seen obviously the guillotine that he continues to attempt, but we have seen a couple of arm triangles. He did attempt a standing arm triangle. He changed, the guillotine and the anaconda choke are pretty much the same. And then, honestly, I've seen one or two mounted triangles there as well. So he does have some decent submissions. It's an unknown here in terms of Kopylov's submission grappling, and I want to say it's good, but it's really just an assumption. There's nothing on tape that really shows it. You might have to go back to the regionals. I'll see if I can find anything, but we're going to leave the submission here about 30%, 1-3. I think that's about right. I think the success later on, honestly, with a TKO and sub could come from round 3, as Kopylov has slowed down in the past there, and Hernandez puts on a pace there. So I do think that he can win a decision as well, Hernandez. If it comes from top time and not the submission, right, and he just attacks takedown after takedown, I think Hernandez can win the decision here. We're going to leave it at 20%. Sounds about right for me. So on the Kopylov side here, to win by TKO, I do think it's live. Again, we talked about potentially the body work that Kopylov does. He likes to go to the body early and often. It's going to be the body kicks, going to be punches to the body, outside low kicks as well to the legs, but he mixes it in, so most of his finishes coming from round 2 or 3, but just accumulation of body work. I do think he has to be careful in terms of the kicks that he throws, because Hernandez will catch a kick and get him down to the ground. But if I do have Hernandez at 10% a TKO, I'm going to have Roman Kopylov about 20%. Hernandez's chin has been on display, but Kopylov has a very straight left hand. It's going to be deadly. Again, I'm going to go back to the orthodox versus southpaw. It is a big weapon for the southpaw, or well, for both fighters, that rear hand. So for Kopylov, it's going to be the left straight that he likes to throw all the time, and it's going to be the rear left kick that he likes to throw all the time as well. So would not surprise me if Kopylov finds a KO in there. Actually, I'm going to raise it up to 25% because I do think it is possible. Kopylov to win by decision. So this one's tricky. So I do think that there's going to be grappling exchanges. For Kopylov to win a decision, it's going to have to come down to the judges and what the judges favor. Is it damage over position, right? So Kopylov might have some success on the feet for the first half of the round, landing some bigger shots, bigger left hands, things like that. But then maybe Hernandez gets a takedown later in the round, spends a minute on top. Then who do you really give it to the round to? So Kopylov could pull out a split decision win based on not really knowing who wins those close rounds. So I'm going to leave it at about 20% seems a little bit high for a decision. 15% sounds about right. And then, sorry, I skipped over submission because I just don't think Kopylov has any submissions in him. He's going to want to keep the fight standing. So let's recap here. I think this looks fairly accurate here. Anthony Hernandez to win by KO, 10%. Anthony Hernandez to win by submission, 30%. A win by decision, 20%. For a total money line of 60% or minus 150 or better. Wins inside the distance at 40% there. or plus 150 or better. On the Kopylov side, win by KO 25%, plus 300 or better. Win by decision 15% or plus 567 or better, for a total money line of 40% or plus 150 or better. So I think I have it 60-40 Hernandez. I think he has more ways of winning. Just the control here. Just, again, the takedown defense really being the unknown here. What are the odds? Let me see. I didn't have to refresh that. Sorry, let me just refresh that. I go to fightodds.io. This is at the UFC. Oh, okay, sorry. Give me a second. UFC 298. Anthony Hernandez, Kopylov. Anthony Hernandez minus 175 right now. Comeback plus 150. So pretty much where we thought it would be. Minus 170. I think I said minus 175. Plus 150 on the comeback for Kopylov. So, yeah, right now, based on our calculations of where the fight should be, I don't really have a play. I think the odds are probably about right. We're going to wait for these props to open up. I will be looking at some of the late props, maybe some same-game parlays if they have them available. But I think it's going to be clear: Anthony Hernandez by submission, Kopylov by KO. I'm going to have not to go to decision at 65% or minus 186. Goes to decision at 35%. That's probably going to be a little bit higher, but I will check out the total. If it's 1.5 or 2.5, big difference there for me. And then we'll take a look at the props. But right now, I'm not too crazy jumping out of my seat. I did think I was going to be on the Kopylov side, but after taping Hernandez and just being relentless, just the biggest unknown for Kopylov is just where his submission grappling is, where his defensive grappling is. It could be out of this world. He could keep the fight standing and look like a minus 500 favorite if he can. Or Hernandez could get him down to the ground, control him for 3 rounds, have Kopylov gas in round number 3 and get finished, and then look like the minus 500 favorite on the Hernandez side. So I could see it going both ways. I'm going to wait for some props, see if I can get this played a little bit trickier, seeing what lines stand out. But that's where my thoughts are. Let me know in the comments below if I'm missing anything. If you have some tape on the Kopylov defensive takedowns or submission grappling, I'd love to see it, see where that's at. But again, my name is Artsy. This is Fighting Stats. I hope you enjoyed the show, learned something there. Let me know in the comments below how we're doing. We have everything over on our Patreon, patreon.com/fightingstats, if you ever want to see what we're playing there. So best of luck. Again, I hope to get a prop down in this, but again, based on these numbers right now, I think the odds are about right, but we'll see. Again, my name is Artsy. This is Fighting Stats. Thanks for watching. All right, guys. Well, that is it for today. Thank you very much for watching. If you like this type of content, make sure you smash the like button, hit the subscribe. You'll get notified anytime we put out new content. Listen to this. We just hit a massive parlay for $29,000 at UFC 297. That is one UFC after 296 where we hit a parlay for $82,000. That's back-to-back parlays. We've made $110,000. And how do we do it? We use our exclusive Fighting Stats, not available anywhere else. Our exclusive Fighting Stats gives us information, gives us a big edge over the sportsbooks, and tell us what's going to happen within the fights. We post all that information, our breakdowns, our best bets, over at patreon.com/fightingstats. Don't miss out. Make sure you subscribe today. Again, my name is Artsy. This is Fighting Stats. Thanks for watching.